Welcome to the Smart Aerialist podcast. I'm Ophelia, your host, an aerial coach, movement specialist, and lifelong performer. This podcast is for aerialists who want to train smarter, move better, and build strength and flexibility in a sustainable way. We'll dive into the science of aerial training, injury prevention, and long-term progress so you can keep growing without burnout. Whether you're just starting out or refining your craft, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. All right, welcome everyone to this new episode, where today we are going to discuss why foundations are not just a beginner's phase. They are part of your intentional training that will protect your body and the craft as well. So if you don't know, again, I've been doing aerial for a good 30 years now. When I took a break and I had to come back, I thought I had my foundation. I really thought everything was going to be so easy to come back to. Oh boy, was that humbling. That was very humbling. I got a bit of a kick in the butt. I definitely got a kick in the butt after. And it was when I became a coach, and even when I became a coach, I was still a bit eager to just get through and very quickly in my practice. But I started understanding the importance of foundation, and now as an older coach, I'm really valuing foundation, not just because it's good for you to keep working on as an aerialist, but it also means that you are respecting the craft as it is. When you see people doing amazing poses and amazing tricks, there is a lot of foundational work that is not shown on social media. You will not see, it's like the iceberg, and foundation are really part of that iceberg underneath the tip. And it's really important, I think, to appreciate that as well, because all the traditional circus and circus families have always been instilling the joy for the process. And when I was part of circus as well, the joy of the process is part of it as well. It's so important to actually feel the joy in learning the most basic thing and repeating them over and over. That's why people get obsessed with the circus, not just always learning something new. It's actually also enjoying the small things in your practice. So what intentional aerial training really means is that your training is guided by purpose and more awareness and respect for your own body rather than always being reactive. So what is reactive training is when you start thinking that everyone else is your class can do this, so you should be able to do it. Or if you go to a mixed class and you see advanced doing the advanced moves and you're like, let me try that. But you know full well deep inside that you're not quite ready to try that pose. Or the coach will teach you and tell you that you're not ready to learn that pose. Yeah, so that's why, for example, in my classes, I said level 1, 2, 3. And then if you can't do level 1 properly, you shouldn't be moving on to level 2. And if you don't do move number 1 really well, you should definitely not do move number 3. So this is my logic when I explain this in classes. If you think as well, oh, I'll just attempt it and see what happens, I'll worry about my strength training later. This is bound to give you injuries, bound for accidents, and bound also to just be like constantly trapped in a comparison loop of comparing yourself with other people all the time. When you start shifting to intentional training, you start thinking, what is my body ready for today? What foundation do I need for each skill? And this, I've just done a webinar on how to set your goal where we discuss this. Is like breaking down, looking at the skills that you want to achieve and breaking them down in smaller milestones, and which foundation do you need to get to acquire this skill in the long term. And how does your practice fit into your long-term goals as well? The difference are quite subtle, obviously, but they will impact your aerial longevity. Yeah, so it's just not protecting your body. It will also change the relationship with your aerial practice itself. When you stop training reactively, you also stop chasing external validation. At our society, we do want a lot of external validation. We all do. And often that just tends us to rush and not really be intentional about what we do. And we just in life as well, right? If that's one of the things I've noticed myself. For example, I was telling my flatmate the other day, who, granted, bless her, a lot of people want to refer me and do this and do that. And be like, oh, I know someone. And sometimes I just had to learn to say no, because I've been saying yes too many times in my life. And so in aerial, the same applies. You don't want to just do everything. And I realized as well when I was going back to aerial, I wanted to do pole and I wanted to do silks and I wanted to do everything. And I realized that nothing was really sticking and nor was I really enjoying doing everything. And I was like, you know what, let me just strip it back, right? I started with trapeze. I like hoop. Let me focus on hoop and let me try and be good at this. So this is what building more intention in your practice means as well, is not constantly chasing things, but actually be like, I am going to learn and dedicate a bit more time to one thing in particular. So why do they matter beyond the strength and your flexibility? Why foundations are more than just basic drills? They're not just drills. They're not work that you do on the apparatus. It goes a bit deeper than that. Because foundation, they build your joint tolerance and your load management. As you keep practicing your foundation, you will help your shoulder, your wrist, your spine handle the repetitive demands of aerial training without your body breaking down. So it's not just about being strong enough to just do the move once. It's being able to come back into your straddle and being able to repeat and repeat. And again, I can approach this from my own personal experience. It took me a while to do good skinners, Russian mount and Russian rolls. And I was noticing at the beginning that I would feel like a pull in my shoulder every time I was doing it. Then I realized that it was because I wasn't using my core and my shoulders adequately. And I was actually pulling on my shoulder and my nerve that's already damaged on my elbow, on my ulnar nerve. And I was like, I need to find a way to do this better than to just throw myself. And so foundations are important for that. The more you practice your foundation, the more your body builds this resilience and make aerial safer on your session, during your session. What foundations do as well is they help with your coordination. They help with your nervous system. And I always do a lot of conditioning and beginning of flow with repeating the most basic foundational movements, such as going onto the hocks, doing a gazelle, doing a man in the moon. Even if you're the most advanced aerialist in my classes, we'll still do this because you get that body organization straight away. When you start skipping the elements, you don't just result in failure on the apparatus. Sometimes it will show as plateau, especially when you're more advanced. So when you don't work on your beat, your straight arm straddle, your good extension and doing good basic elements such as up and overs, from balance, again, gazelle, then you are going to start feeling fatigue much faster. You're going to plateau when you want to start learning the more advanced elements of your practice, or you're going to start having those little niggles in your recurring injury that can feel quite confusing and frustrating. And a lot of aerialists don't struggle because they're not strong enough. It's often because the foundations, they won't support the progress that you're trying to get through. It demands a lot on your body, and if your body is not prepared, the body is not going to say yes to the moving on. Your nervous system will decide what aerial movement is safe for you, and very often if your nervous system doesn't trust the process, doesn't trust the move, it won't allow you to do it. So it will limit everything. When your nervous system starts saying no, your range gets limited, your strength won't matter, and it will show up as invisible ceilings in your aerial progress. Rushing foundation is not going to be useful because of that, because you want to not plateau and you want to keep building the steps, but you do need your foundation to keep climbing. So always reassign and reassess what might be missing underneath when you want to progress a little bit further. Okay, so what happens when foundations are rushed? Well, the first thing that usually will show up will be some discomfort, will be some niggles, will be some fatigue, will be your plateaus. But how they would show up is, for example, your shoulders fatiguing before your core inverts. You've got to feel strong in some position, but very unstable in others. You're going to take a bit longer in your recovery between each aerial session. You're going to start avoiding certain moves or certain apparatus because it doesn't fit what feels easy, and everything like those skills will start feeling wrong for you, and your plateau will feel very hard. It will hit you a bit like a brick. Why am I not able to push through this? In reality, Clarity and preparation is usually what allows your progress, yes, to feel safe and sustainable. So this is why structuring outside classes, not just having the foundation, can also help, because it's not just about learning your drills and drilling. It is also finding the missing pieces outside your classes and starting to structure it a little bit more. This is what I was telling you. I just recorded before this my webinar again about how to set your aerial goals properly, because it's not just about doing the classes and drilling. It's about really breaking down your goals into your skills, into your milestones, and into your biomechanics, looking at movement patterns and what needs to be worked on in your cross training program and your strength program. And this is why I've created the Aerial Performance Lab. This is why I like having members that use the program that I've designed. So this program I've designed for myself, I've designed for my client, and I put them all on my platform so everybody can access them and maybe structure their training a little bit better on the outside as well. This gives you a bit more structure and a bit more clarity on how to break down what can be missing in your foundation outside the aerial studio. It's designed to help your foundational work, like straight arm invert, skin the cat, upper novas, mid hooks. Those programs are designed with the biomechanical structure that is needed to isolate in order to achieve those goals. So why physical foundations are also part of the cultural foundations in aerial. It's not just a physical practice to work on your foundation. It's actually quite cultural too. As I said at the beginning of the podcast of this episode, that traditional circus or working in a circus always emphasize the enjoyment of the repetition, the enjoyment of the preparation, and the respect for the process as well. And I know circus has become a bit commercialized now. We are in the fitness age of circus, and everybody now, circus is a lot more accessible. But that's one of the things, social media and the accessibility to studio has skipped a little bit of this. And sometimes when aerial becomes a bit more mainstream, there is a risk of losing that depth and making people just resent doing the foundational work. But in the cultural traditional circus, you learn to appreciate it. And don't get me wrong, this is one of the things I really enjoyed aerial for. I was very happy to repeat a lot of things over and over. Whereas when I tried juggling the first time, I can juggle, but it took me so long and a lot of frustration, and I was really annoyed, and it was really hard for me to find the same patience that I have moving my body in aerial practice. I just found foundation in aerial was a little bit easier than the building blocks in juggling. Oh my god. So when you find something that you really love, I think diving deep should be enjoyable as well. And with aerial, it makes you understand that you will respect the craft in the way you train. How much you respect the circus culture and the real foundational cultural foundation behind it will also be a determining factor of how you respect the craft as it is. So training aerial with intention is a way to respect your body, respect the progress, and also respect the lineage of the discipline. It's not gatekeeping, it's actually preserving the lineage of circus. And rather than just rush past your foundation where you're risking injury, you're also just disconnecting yourself with the cultural context that makes aerial really meaningful. And the aerialists that train for decades instead of months, they will understand most of the time. This is even something I knew when I was little. I forgot and wanted to skip so badly when I got back into it. Now, a few years later, a decade later, I understand that foundation is really important, and how you train aerial matters as much as what you actually train. And this is a message that I'm hoping will come across a little bit more as circus grows even more mainstream now and more accessible. I just really hope that cultivating appreciation and the respect from that foundation will also show that we are showing respect for the lineage of where circus comes from. All right, another element of thinking about your foundation is thinking that foundational work will make you a bit more rehab-aware as well. It's a little bit like Pilates. When you go to a Pilates class, you are going to start realizing how connected your body is to your mind. And with foundation is the same thing. You're going to realize what are your shortcomings. You are going to realize your imbalances. you're going to be a lot more aware of this. And rehabilitation can feel sometimes like going backward, but it's quite a bit of a damaging myth, because your rehabilitation has to be part of your aerial training. It's not a regression, and it's really understanding the amount of load tolerance, your gradual exposure, your nervous system regulation, everything that encompasses in rehabilitation is what allows you as an aerialist to train more consistently, recover more effectively, and also build the confidence after your setbacks. So separating rehab from aerial performance, it can lead to cycles of overtraining and getting injured. And I know that there are quite a few of you that might listen to this podcast who know what I'm talking about, who know exactly that you get injured and you overtrain and you fatigue and you get cranky and you get a bit of burnout. And the thing is, being rehab aware, when you should be pulling back, when you should be making a bit more work on your foundation. Maybe you should stop learning, flowing, and always like trying to progress. This foundational work teaches you to be a bit more rehab aware as well. And you start also spotting the early warning sign before this warning sign become injuries. It helps you understand the difference between productive fatigue and destructive fatigue in aerial. And it will also it will give you the opportunity to adjust your training based on your body's needs, not just what you think you should be doing, your aerial class plan. Yes, so sometimes you just have to build this awareness as well. And this is what I mean by being more intentional in your training, is understanding that everyone is welcome in aerial, but we all come into starting point. But how you enter aerial now, for me, matters a lot. When you start aerial, if you're a beginner, learn to appreciate the beginning process. Learn to appreciate, to foster and nurture the foundation through your journey as well. And I talk about someone who has wanting to skip all these steps and forgot that not only is part of the process and there is an enjoyable part in it, and the enjoyable part in fostering and nurturing those foundations are also going back to the roots of what the circus culture is about. Enjoying the process of learning those very small elements and that mind and body connection and becoming more aware. So instead of actually being disconnected to our bodies and just pushing through and just learning new moves and just not really feeling, that goes really far from the tangent of doing movement to be able to flow and actually find that flow state, that meditative state. There is something that really switched in me, I would say a couple of years in as a coach, maybe a couple of years, maybe 1 or 2 years, is I had a vision about the aerialist that I really want, and I still do. I have a vision about the aerialist I want to be. The aerialist I want to be is not the aerialist that can do the craziest movement. It's the aerialist that moves with fluidity and with so much control and ease. And for me, I knew that this required a lot more foundation work because I need more stability. Flexibility work because I want to look like my poses are flexible, and I wanted more fluidity in my movement. And so this is not always about crazy moves, it's also how your body moves. And for me, I wanted to feel our move. When you think, you see yourself in your imagination, the way you move and the way you do certain things, where you dance, or I wanted to feel like I could achieve this fluidity and this flow and this deep connection, almost spiritual connection between my mind and body, rather than just pushing, just actually feeling that ease. And for that's where I realized that intentional training and not rushing the process was part of it. Appreciating that journey of stripping back and relearning. So I hope that you find this quite helpful. And if you want to, again, keep on hearing more podcasts like this, you can also join my mailing list, which is called we'll put the link in the show notes. You can have access to the blog as well. I will do a lot of live training at the moment. One is going to be based on straight arm invert. And don't forget that there is my aerial performance lab, my online platform where you can find all the structure to help you achieve those goals, work on those foundation, work on those cross-training programs, work on those flexibility skills. And you have mailing list, the platform, and you've got the live event coming soon, live group training programs that are coming soon. One of them is your straight arm invert. So I've decided to actually launch programs this year. So I've already got programs on the app, but to actually launch live coaching session where we, instead of just working on flow, we're actually stripping back to learning the skills and working those skills hard and having fun while we do that. So if you're interested, you can join the mailing list, because I'm going to launch this exclusively first on the mailing list and then open booking to the public. But I'm very excited to see where that takes us, and I really hope you enjoyed this episode. And don't forget to share it. As always, I really appreciate it. It's been awesome to see this podcast and everything growing so far. And again, let me know, take a screenshot of this podcast, post it on your story, tag me at FitFrenchKiss, let me know what you thought about this episode. And I hope that I will see you in the next episode. Speak to you soon. Bye. I also want to remind you that there is a treasure trove of free content that you can access and I create for you. First of all, with every episode, you will see there are show notes where you can access the blog that relate to this episode. The blog dives a little bit deeper into details and also provide added references for you, some extra reading and some science papers that have inspired those episodes and those blogs. Second of all, you can also check out my YouTube channel where you will find a lot of workouts and flexibility, conditioning and strength exercises that are suited for aerialists in particular, but just not aerialists as well. And finally, don't forget to check out my app and the Aerialist Performance Lab.